is Spencer, and today we're going to learn about nutrients, which are really important because every living thing needs nutrients, energy, water, and a habitat to survive. Now we know that we need nutrients, but what are they? Well, like energy, we get nutrients from eating food. But what's the difference between energy and nutrients? Well, our body needs energy to help it move and do stuff. But our body uses nutrients to replace different parts of itself and even to grow. It's sort of like how in a car, you put gasoline in it to make it move. But you also need to make sure that you replace the different parts of the engine in the car and also replace the oil to keep the car running. In this analogy, gasoline is the energy that keeps the car running, and the engine and the oil are like the nutrients. I want to talk a little bit about some important nutrients that you might know about. One of them is calcium, which helps your bones get stronger and is in milk. Potassium is really good for your muscles, and it's in bananas. Nitrogen is another really important one that's in a lot of plants and vegetables that you eat, and we're going to talk about it more later. Now, where are nutrients? Well, they're everywhere. They're in the air, the soil, the water, and of course in the plants and the animals that we eat. But the most important place that nutrients are kept is in the soil, because plants will make nutrients from light and water and store them in their roots and put some of them back into the soil for other plants to take up and use to help them grow. So the more different types of plants that you have in your soil, the more nutrient rich the soil is going to be, which is really good for everybody.
Hi everyone, my name is Claire and today I'll be talking to you about nutrient cycles. So you learned all about the nutrients in the soil, and so today we're going to be talking about how nature recycles it, because a nutrient cycle is nature's recycling system where nutrients are absorbed and then transferred, released, and reabsorbed. So the nutrients from the environment go through the soil to you or any other animal. In this case, we have a deer eating a tree, but maybe we eat the deer who eats the tree. So the nutrients from the environment go to you. And then when the animal dies, or when we die, or when we have to go to the bathroom, all the nutrients go back to the environment. So the nutrients are never lost. And the nutrient cycle also involves both living and non-living organisms. Carbon is the most important nutrient, and it's in every living thing. And the carbon is in the air. We actually breathe it out. So we breathe in oxygen and we breathe out carbon. And so what happens is carbon from the air is absorbed by plants. These plants make oxygen, and that's what we breathe. And then we breathe in the oxygen and then we breathe out the carbon. So the plants have more carbon to make oxygen. So it's a nice cycle too. So like that's also the oxygen cycle where plants absorb carbon dioxide, make oxygen for us. We breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon for plants. And so when we breathe it out, carbon is released back into the air. Carbon is also released back in the air from factories or cars, any of these kinds of vehicles or things that emit carbon. That's part of the reason why we have global warming today. But the carbon cycle is really important to making sure that we survive, because without carbon, we would not exist. So the carbon comes from the air, gets to us, and then gets released back into the air. Nitrogen is also an essential element to life. So bacteria fix the nitrogen for plants to use, bacteria in the ground, because nitrogen in the atmosphere in the sky is not the kind of nitrogen that plants can use. So the bacteria have to be there to help the plants use the nitrogen. So once the bacteria fix the nitrogen for plants, the plants can absorb it, grow, and then once the plants die, they decompose. And so animals also will be eating plants. When animals die, they will also decompose. And so when you decompose, bacteria actually help get the nitrogen in these plants and animals out so it can be released back into the atmosphere so the cycles can continue. So hopefully you've seen with the carbon and the nitrogen cycle that the nutrients in our world, in our environment, never get wasted, and they're always transferred and reabsorbed, and it's always a continuous cycle. So next, I think you guys will learn about native plants.
What plants are really good for helping to bring nutrients into the soil? Now, we just learned about the nitrogen cycle, and nitrogen is a really important nutrient that plants can help bring into the soil. And one of the ways that they do this is by having really deep roots. So, the dandelion, this flower on the left, maybe you've heard of it. Maybe you've even seen it in fields or in meadows near your house. The dandelion has really deep roots, which means that it can take nutrients, like nitrogen, from the air and the water and bring it deep down into the soil and hold it there for other plants to use. Another way that plants can help bring nutrients into the soil is if they have helper bacteria on their roots that take nitrogen from the air and fix it in the soil so other plants can use. And this middle picture is called a clover. And this right picture is a plant called the partridge pea. Both of these plants are from Connecticut, and they have helper bacteria on their roots that bring nitrogen from the air into the soil so plants can use it. So the dandelion, the red clover, and the pea plant are all really good for soil building. So we just learned about what plants help bring nutrients into the soil. What about the plants that take nutrients out of the soil? Well, if plants have really shallow roots, like grass, then they're not going to hold nutrients in the soil really well. And that's not going to be good for the soil, and it's not going to be good for other plants. And if plants are really greedy, and they eat up all the nitrogen in the soil, like corn, or like this invasive species called common reed, then they're also going to take nutrients out of the soil, which will be bad for other plants.